everyone.
Hello.
We're very much looking forward to hearing your pitch. All yours.
So my name is Aaron and our entry for the Civil Service Data Challenge aims to reduce benefit fraud and error associated with self-employment. The origins of my idea came from my experiences working for the DWP in Salford Job Centre, where I was on the front of house team and my role involved dealing with benefit queries and processing universal credit claims. Universal credit is a means-tested benefit that can be claimed by those in work and those out of work. During the pandemic, the volume of universal credit claims increased dramatically. As a result, the DWP changed processes in order to process claims quicker by removing certain checks such as face-to-face identity verification interviews. Consequently, fraud and error increased greatly from 1.7 billion in 2020. Just for clarification, fraud is where an individual deliberately misleads the DWP in order to get a greater benefit entitlement. Error is where an individual inadvertently provides the wrong information, leading to overpayment. Universal credit is reliant on claimant self-reporting. This can cause a problem for self-employed claimants who are required to report their income and expenses each month, with the UC system using their profits to calculate their award. Now, this isn't a problem for those who are employed and paid under PAYE. For those, their earnings are automatically reported to the DWP by HMRC via the RTI feed, which is real-time information. So we can see there's a potential problem for self-employed claimants who either may not know how to correctly report their income and expenses, or those who may deliberately underreport their income in order to get an increased UC award. As we can see, of the four main areas of overpayment due to fraud and error, self-employment is the largest, approximately 1.4 billion. Now, we estimate 250 million of that comes from self-employed construction workers, and about half of that comes from construction workers who are paid through the construction industry scheme. So our proposal will look to reduce benefit fraud and error by sharing HMRC data with DWP so that DWP can more accurately calculate and verify UC awards.
Thanks, Aaron. So clearly there's a sizable problem here, and when we began our investigations we recorded some quotes from senior leaders in the Department for Work and Pensions. But when we started talking about the issue, it became clear in our team that there were ways to mitigate these problems. And as Aaron has mentioned, they involve HMRC sharing construction industry scheme earnings data with DWP. Just to expand slightly on the construction industry scheme, this is a process whereby deductions are made by contractors from subcontractors' wages in advance contributions towards tax and national insurance, and they involve the contractors actually supplying earnings information to HMRC, which is recorded. So it's worth setting out our objectives at this point. What we're looking to do is ensure self-employed construction workers receive the right benefits. We want to reduce fraud and error, and we're going to do that through expanding the use of existing data. So we've recognised that there are some significant challenges here, but there are also some major gains to be rewards. And we've spent the last few months researching our understanding, refining our understanding, and I'll say more about that later, but I just want to start off with a description of our solution through a high-level scenario. So this is, excuse me, this is Steve, the subcontractor. He typically works as a labourer on building sites. Currently, he's employed by Honest Colin Construction. Honest Colin pays Steve monthly and submits his earnings details via the construction industry scheme to HMRC. However, Steve is also supplementing his income by claiming universal credit. Each month he makes a call or uses the online portal to self-declare his income, but he understates that income to the DWP. Without any further checks for fraud or error or verifying his actual income with HMRC, DWP calculates his benefits and pays them. What we're proposing to do is to bridge that knowledge gap by introducing a link between HMRC and DWP that will allow self-declared income to be cross-checked. This is a much more proactive use of data than currently in use, in which a more reactive process is used to recover overpayments sometime after the fact. So it has advantages for claimants because they don't have to have overpayments clawed back, but also obvious advantages for DWP, HMRC and taxpayers by reducing fraud and error. So going back to Steve, he makes his monthly call to DWP to self-declare his income. But now with our solution in place, using an automated data exchange, DWP is able to spot the discrepancy and pass on the information to the fraud and error team in DWP. They contact Steve for verification and provide the information to his work coach and case manager. At this point, Steve can resubmit his corrected income or dispute the information. But the key point is that, crucially, the discrepancy has been noted and action can be taken. And the information can be fed back to HMRC for their records. So it's important to notice here that this is not an automated decision. The discrepancy, when it's detected, triggers a referral process. No one is automatically deprived of benefits. There's an investigation and action will be taken after that. So in this way, civil servants can use this valuable information without risking detriment to the claimant. So in developing our solution, we've done a lot of work to socialise our proposals around civil service. We've gained buy-in widely and verified that there is an appetite for this solution. There's a major precedent in the form of the real-time information system, which has faced the same kind of challenges that we anticipate. So we can learn from that. And we've also considered the ethical and legal frameworks. So without a fully developed pilot study, there are obviously assumptions that we've had to make, but we've backed them up with evidence and research. And to say more about our next steps, including the pilot study, I'll hand over to Mark.
Thanks, John. So where do we go from here? So we're proposing a three-stage approach. So the first one will be a proof of concept. So that will be DWP and HMRC exchanging data to understand how easy that is and if there is an overlap of that data that would be useful. So it's not just about the data though. What we need to understand through our pilot study that we'll run next is how that impacts on the business. So what impact will that have on our case managers and our workload for that particular individual or that particular business? And then once we've managed to conclude those first two stages of it, we can go into rollout. And that will talk about changing our organisation, as John's already mentioned, from a reactive organisation that reclaims payments and checks data to a proactive organisation that stops the fraud and error in the first place. We focused on the data, and we focused on one individual in the self-employed construction industry. But we know what we've done with our proposal, we've got the potential to scale that up to use it in other areas. So looking at other areas of the self-employed market, we can look at things like commercial drivers and whether those commercial drivers can have the same approach and proposal that we put here to deliver additional savings. So those savings that we're talking about, and they're talking about here, by bringing in more data, by rolling this out further, will allow us then to bring more savings into the organisation. And by doing that, and by bringing in more, we can then actually create a business case to roll that out further for perhaps data that's not currently available. And we can work on that one. So we're really excited about this project. We think it's a great project. We'd like to take it forward. And we think lots of other people would see that potential in it as well. So I'd like to hand you over to Liz now, who will talk about, summarise and ask you any questions.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, John. Thanks, Aaron. I hope you're as excited about the solution as we are, and that it offers a real potential to make sure taxpayers' money isn't wasted on fraud and error. We welcome your questions and your comments.
You might need this on the screen.
Thank you.
Thank you.